Your Jimmy Highlander. High Roller? I forget the nigga's name. High Roller. Using numbers to find the most difficult NBA championship ever won. That's a pretty nifty video. Not gonna lie, it's a pretty good idea. Honestly, it might. I don't know. I want to hear what he says.
On Sunday night, the Los Angeles Lakers wrapped up this long and grueling season with a championship. A storybook ending for LeBron, AD, and the Lakers organization. And now that the season is over, I wanted to take
Didn't even mention Rondo.
Something that has been circulating over the last few days.
Rondo's kid drinking like crazy.
One of the easiest to win in recent years.
That
Not only did
cider.
I crunch the numbers to find out if there was any truth to this claim, the result that I got is one you have to see to believe.
But pretty much,
with LeBron claiming his fourth,
this is gonna be like the most difficult carry. So whoever carried the team the hardest, this is gonna be the most difficult. I have a feeling that's what it's gonna be about.
The tone among NBA fans hasn't changed much.
What NBA All-Star had the best player?
This was
had the
predictable as it gets.
shittiest teammates
the title of my
and
last
won.
video. With many NBA fans saying this season was so different and unconventional that this particular championship should have an asterisk next to it. Or, as some call it, the Mickey Mouse Rec League Championship. But looking at this from an objective point of view, where does this championship run rank all time in terms of difficulty? What championship team had the hardest run to a title, and which championship team had the easiest run? Well, I started this search for the ultimate championship run and quickly came across this Reddit post from 4 years ago. This Reddit user came up with a simple way of measuring the difficulty of a team's title run by using an advanced stat called the Simple Rating System, or SRS. This stat measures a team's margin of victory throughout the season adjusted for strength of schedule. Basically, this stat quantifies how good a team is. For example, this season the Bucks had the highest SRS in the entire league of 9.41, followed by the Clippers, Lakers, and Raptors. Just like any other stat, it has its flaws, but overall it's a great indicator
Just
of
like
how
the Raptors, never up there.
Terrible a team is. He then added up the total SRS values for every team that each championship team beat in the playoffs. For example, in 2017, the Warriors beat the Blazers.
Hold on, what the fuck?
Basically, this stat quantifies how good a team is.
Okay.
For example, this season the Bucks had the highest SRS in the entire league of 9.41, followed by the Clippers, Lakers, and Raptors. Just like any other stat, it has its flaws, but overall it's a great indicator of how great or terrible.
Were the Warriors that bad this year?
A team is. He then added up the total SRS values for every team.
2017 Warriors championship. Okay. On the first round, is this the Pacers? That
each championship.
The Pacers. I don't know why I said that. I don't understand. Is the negative 0.23 the Warriors stat when they were playing them, or is that the fucking the Trailblazers stat? Is that the Utah Jazz's stat, or is that the Warriors stat playing them? I don't know.
Team beat in the playoffs. For example, in 2017, the Warriors beat the Blazers, Jazz, Spurs, and Cavaliers. Add up the SRS scores for each of those teams and the difficulty of the.
Say that one more time. Say that one more time.
For example, in 2017, the Warriors beat the Blazers, Jazz, Spurs, and Cavaliers. Add up the SRS scores for each of those teams and the difficulty of the Warriors' 2017 championship run is 13.77.
Is that hard?
So now that we understand how this all works, here's the list of championship runs.
I don't understand how it works
in terms of difficulty.
But we're gonna keep it rolling.
The 1995 Rockets having the most difficult path to a championship, and the 1987 Lakers having the easiest path to a championship. This list only includes championships dating back to the 1984 season.
Lakers
that is when
nuts,
the 16-team playoff system was introduced. So,
Coley
with
is
the last
nuts,
37
bro.
championship teams listed, where do the 2020 Lakers land? All the way down at 35th. In the last 37 seasons, only 2 championship teams faced easier competition than the Lakers faced in this season's playoffs. In my last video, I talked about how the Lakers' path to a title this season was no easier than any other championship teams. And I literally could not have been more wrong.
Yeah,
Not
holy
only was the
shit.
path easy, it was nearly
0.97.
the easiest path of the last 37 seasons.
That's fucking
But let's
crazy.
take a deeper look into some of these numbers. The first thing that jumped out at me was that the Shaq and Kobe Lakers three-peat featured 3 of the top 5 most difficult paths to a championship. That is unbelievable.
Wow.
And even crazier is that in 2001, the Lakers nearly swept the playoffs, going 15-1 while facing the second most difficult opponents in the process. So if you've ever wondered what team was the most dominant in the last 35 seasons,
Lakers.
I think there is your answer. Now, if we highlight each decade, then we can see which 10-year span
Well, that's all, nigga.
and featured the most.
Nigga had Shaq, Kobe. One second. Fisher.
Most difficult runs to a championship. And for the most part, each decade had similar levels
Fucking
of
white boy who's the coach now.
except
Forget his
the
name.
80s. But this was because for most of the 80s, the league only had 23 teams, which meant a
Johnson.
16-team playoff format featured many teams with losing records. Simply put, the league was still good, but it was super tough.
I wasn't listening. Hold on.
Except the 80s. But this was because for most of the 80s, the league only had 23 teams, which meant a 16-team playoff format featured many teams with losing records. Simply put, the league was still good, but it was super top-heavy with bad teams making the playoffs. With that being said, it's still shocking just how easy it was to get deep into the playoffs in the 80s.
What was on? Who was on the '95
The NBA
Rockets?
has been a bit one-sided throughout recent history in terms of talent level in each conference. Well, this next graphic highlights just that. When graphing the most difficult paths to a championship using SRS scores on the y-axis, you can see that the West has won 4 of the 5 toughest championships since 1984. The West has also won 12 of the 20 most difficult titles in the last 37 seasons. 4 of those 8 titles from the East coming at the hands of Michael Jordan and the Bulls. Here are Michael Jordan's 6 titles.
This is hurting my
Here are
fucking head.
Kobe's 5 championships. Every single one of them having a very high degree of difficulty.
Yeah.
And here are
What the fuck? How was? Damn, Kobe had a shitty ass team, bro. He had to carry like a motherfucker. That's crazy. I mean, yeah, what the fuck? He had to carry forever. Wow. And you got fucking MJ just chilling. What who was on his team in 91? Did he have Rodman yet? He must have had Robin up here. And Pippen, because they just chilling, nigga.
LeBron's 4 championships. Now, strictly considering how challenging each of these championships
These are LeBron's? What?
having a very high degree of difficulty. And here are LeBron's 4 championships. Now, strictly considering how challenging each of these championship runs
he had
were,
one up there.
which
Who's-
collection of
what?
championships looks more impressive? At face value, Kobe's rings are easily the greatest collection of tough titles in the modern NBA. Now consider the fact that Mike and LeBron received Finals MVP in every one of their championship seasons, and Kobe won the award just 2 out of 5 times.
That's fucked.
And for some more reference, here are Magic Johnson's last 3 championships.
Chilling.
I've said it before, and I cannot stress this enough. Not every championship is built the same. And when you start considering other variables,
Show me Bill
like who
Russell's.
they play with, was there any significant injuries, and how well did they play in the finals, you begin to see just how ridiculous it is to base the foundation of your GOAT debate on purely how many rings a player has. Most would agree that 5 rings beats 4, but what if the 5 rings were won on a relatively easy path, while the 4 were won on a more difficult path?
Wow, this
And before we
SRS
move
shit's
on, I just
crazy.
want to point out that this era of the NBA, the 90s and early 2000s, was easily the most competitive time in basketball. Just something to think about. So after
Who's-
seeing just how different competitive time
Who's
in
this?
basketball,
Who's that?
just something to think about. So after
95?
seeing just how different each time in
What?
basketball,
Who's this? 95. 95.
Just something to think about. So after seeing just how different each title run can be, one surprising aspect
This video
of
is
this
fucking
experiment that
nuts.
jumped out at me was the fact that the best two teams don't always end up in the finals. In fact,
No more
rarely
pausing. I ain't
do the
doing
best
shit
two
no more.
teams end up in the finals. For example, in the 2001 playoffs, the Lakers faced off against the 76ers in the finals.
Cutie,
This was
no homo.
possibly the biggest finals mismatch in recent history, but NBA fans knew this at the time. However, just how big of a mismatch this was is absurd. On their path to the finals, the Lakers beat the Blazers, the Kings, and the Spurs. All of these teams had a higher SRS score than the 76ers. Of course, this is a rather simple metric to grade how good a team is, but it is not a stretch to say that
How the fuck? How did the 76ers make it to the finals?
the Lakers faced better teams at every stage leading
What
up
the
to the
fuck?
finals than they did in the finals. In 2018, the Warriors beat the Spurs, the Pelicans, and the Rockets on their way to the finals to face the Cavs. Each of these Western Conference teams being statistically better than the Cavaliers. So think to yourself, how many players and teams have been eliminated before the finals that could have made the
This SRS shit doesn't make
finals
sense,
if they
bro.
were just in a different conference?
They gotta fix
How
their
many
maths.
NBA championships were decided in the Western Conference? This is why, although I'm a certified LeBron fanboy, I don't put as much weight into his 10 finals appearances as other fans. I have to consider the fact that during those finals runs, the East was considerably worse than the West, and if LeBron and the Cavs were in the West, they may not have even saw the finals.
Wow.
So just how easy was the Lakers' path to a championship this season? Quite frankly, it was historically easy. But the craziest part about all of this is that in 20 years, no one will care about the details. Just like how no one cares that 3 of Magic's 5 rings were won on easy paths. Just like how the 99 Spurs snagged a relatively easy ring during the most difficult era of the NBA. Just like how MJ's
Oh, it was the Rockets. Holy
path to his
shit.
first 2 rings were immensely easier than the path to his last 4. It doesn't matter because it doesn't change anything. Regardless of how you get it, a ring is still a ring.
Facts.
And although they aren't all built the same, they all shine just as bright.
Facts.
Hope you all enjoyed, and as always, until next time.
That unibrow, bro. I'm built different, so it's like different. Yeah.